Can't you see that you're lost without me? I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the stars inside you.
Hi, Baldy Jack here, and today's video is on the Mezco Cinema Fear Series 1, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, Jason Voorhees figure. And I guess we're taking a look back at the Mezco products, shall we?
It's hard for me to believe that this figure is roughly 11 years old now, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. I've only had it for like the past, I think, 4 to 5 years, so it's been a while. We're taking a look at it once again. This time it's a much more improved video, and the old review will no longer need to be seen, as this will be my definitive review of this here figure. So first we'll take a look at the packaging. I got this figure just like this. It's a little bit dusty. Sorry about that, but yeah, you can see the poster art that you have here. Well, the poster arts for most of the figures that are featured. You know, you have the Part 4 Jason, a Freddy, you have Leatherface, and then Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. But you can see here, here's Jason in the clamshell. This was a interesting start for Mezco indeed. As I'll flash some pictures up here on screen, as Mezco was getting into the whole Cinema Fear line, as they were promoting it, they had each of the figures from this series decoed out in a gold, silver, or should I say chrome, and then a red color as well, which is really weird, and it's crazy to think that some of these things sell for roughly $300. I remember seeing the gold Jason on eBay a couple years ago selling for that much. I'm really wondering how many of those were even made. It's rumored that it was like 5 to 10 of each character, but it's really hard to say. So I'll remove this figure from his clamshell contraption, and we'll take a better look at him. And here we have Jason out of the package, in which I put him in there only for the review. So we'll take a look at his accessories first. So here we have a meat cleaver. In fact, this was used on Jimbo. Kind of see there's a little bit of a shine to it with the light and everything, giving it kind of like a metallic look. Blood on it is all right for Mezco's work. And then we have the hacksaw. Quite nice, gritty and dirty. Here we have the double-headed axe. I think the blade is okay on this one, but it's definitely a lot better on the machete that he comes with. Once again, has a lot of black wash and an overall decent splatter to the blood compared to how Mezco later went on to include blood with most of their figures and weapons, where it started to look like jam and not really too much blood. Then we have an addition of Pamela Voorhees' Tombstone, in which we do have this with the NECA figure, but with the Mezco, you know, they've done it first, clearly. This is a lot larger than the other one, but I don't need to do a comparison here because this is mainly focusing on this figure here. It's not really too much of a comparison because we are focusing on this figure here. We then have an alternate left hand with the gash down the middle of his hand. This is something that I love to display with this figure in particular, especially with him looking at his hand, kind of like the scene in the film. Then we have the alternate head here. I don't know why I'm showing this off right off the bat, but why not? With the gash in the side of the head. The weirdest part about this is the fact that it's above his eye. Kind of awkward, to be honest, that the gash that's meant to be intersecting his eye is above his eye socket, which is really weird. It is what it is, I suppose. So, why not take a look at Jason himself. Not a bad figure at all is what I would say, but it's definitely aged over time in comparison to some of the newer figures that NECA has released. The articulation on this guy, this is the only time that Mezco ever had posability in the legs with their Cinema Fear line was Series 1. After that, they ditched it, and you just had the Staction statue-like lower half of the body, because the articulation in the legs was very rarely needed, and it was super pointless because you couldn't get the figure really to stand. I mean, you don't want Jason doing karate kicks, and especially since you have the swivel joints for the legs, it just doesn't work, and the figure's overall stuck in one position with his legs. The mask itself on the figure, I think it's done average pretty well. The chevron that's in half here, as you can see, it isn't really positioned correctly on my figure. I don't know if it's like that with a lot of them, but it's definitely not positioned right on the hockey mask itself. You have the other open palm here, which is some blood splattered on the inside with his black gnarly fingernails. Yeah, there's a couple, blood splatter, and they definitely have that glossy paint going on here on the figure himself. There's a couple dirt and grime here on the figure. The shirt that he's wearing comes out as like a black, which is really weird because in the movie it was like a dark green. So that is very, very odd if you ask me on this part. I mean, for this figure. So we'll remove his hockey mask, and as you can see, here's the default head that the figure has here. The really interesting thing about this figure is this side looks a lot like Jason in the film, but then this side, it just looks really sad, and it's really off-putting for this head sculpt because it just doesn't look right. The one side of his face looks really serious, and then the other side looks kind of goofy. So I'll remove this head sculpt, and it's really easy to pop in and out these two head sculpts, which is really nice, to be honest, especially for a figure this old. Then you have the gash with the side of his head. It looks really, really odd. And you can take the machete and actually pry that in the gap, and bingo bongo, you have the ending of the film, sort of. It works, sort of, not exactly. And you could just put, the mask on. One thing that's really interesting that they did with these figures, as you can see, there is indentation marks on the sculpt of where the mask for the straps would rest. So it's kind of odd when you spin the figure around how you can see that. Really odd how that is. A lot of odd things going on with this figure in particular. For a nostalgia feeling, I really do love this figure. It's not the best that Mezco has done, but it's a decent figure, to be honest. Is it worth getting? If you like Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and if you do like Mezco's older products, as they do newer products, but they're not the affordable of things, let's put it that way. I think you can pick this guy up still, for maybe $50-$60, so it's not too overpriced. It's reasonable around there, is what I would say. But let's take a look at this hand as well. I know it's a big difference that you can do. You just pop that out, the peg, and then you install the hand with the gash. So you can have him looking at his hand just like that. Which, I mean, it works for the figure that he is, to be honest. What I suppose I'll do is I'll take some photos of this figure and everything. So, I hope you all enjoyed this quick review of this figure. Until then, thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Hope you all enjoy those photo galleries, and see you next time.